I mean, people don't do that against Wesley So.
People don't, only Magnus does.
Only Magnus does. Truly remarkable performance. I'm still in awe.
The entire chess world just shaking their head in disbelief at times, because this man, Magnus Carlsen, world number one, fresh back from honeymoon, is just doing things to his peers which is unprecedented in the history of the game. You're about to witness something special. He's made a career on it. Who's his opponent in this game? Say it ain't so. Wesley's a pro, playing with the black pieces here. What a domination by Magnus in Zagreb, Croatia, Rapid and Blitz tournament sponsored by Super United, and wow, is this out of this world good. He kicks off with the horsey, Wesley takes some space, and now the Norwegian plays the English against the American in Croatia. We get pawn e6, and Magnus goes for one of his favourite Catalan style setups, named of course after the chess playing cat called Alan. We love that guy. Now we see bishop g2, and both players, Castle, making their chess coaches proud. Quick king safety fist bump as well, exploded out at the board. Lovely etiquette. Pawn b3 is now played, and it prepares to tuck that one into bed. Wesley takes the centre here. Now we see takes on d5, knight recaptures, and both players spawn a seahorse. Magnus tucks this bishop in, and it hits the long pertinent diagonal. The knight takes here, leaving white with the choice of how to recapture, and Magnus of course goes with the pawn, offers the exchange, loves himself an endgame with no queens, or is it a middle game? No one really knows. Driven many a chess player insane, but Wesley doesn't want it. Magnus so impressed he copies, and now b6 from Wesley, rook a d1, bishop b7, and I love this. How do you continue the initiative for white here? Well, you could go pawn h4, run that one down, such a common modern idea, but Magnus now tucks back with the bishop. At first it looks like he's despairing, setting up for the next game, but actually the bishop's going to find work. If you'd have pushed the pawn, you gave up these massive squares here, right? Really instructive chess. Wesley now sets up the rectangle, and we love to see it. Board starts shaking here. What a flex by Wesley. He rips off his top, and Magnus is impressed. I mean, the guy's in a calorie deficit for months now, getting summer ready. We love to see those shredded abs. Now bishop f4, and of course Magnus looking all over the place, trying to get his opponent not to spot the threat, but Wesley does. If, by the way, he'd blocked with the bishop, it's a micro trap, because white can take here, then threaten mate like this. So let's say g6, best move, and you spin back and you're getting loads of pressure. You force e5, and long story short, white gets this marginally better endgame, you know, something like this. Bishop pair doing well here. Let's stop and run back. Not played, no bishop d6. This is the best move. Now Magnus threatens mate in 1. If pawn g6, not actually the best structure. Knight e4, there's a tiny bit of pressure on the dark squares. So Wesley takes here, gives up the bishop pair, but then responds with the usually stinky pawn to f6, but he's got an idea in mind. He swaps off a pair of rooks, challenges the d file. Of course Magnus pushes the rook's pawn like a boss, and now Wesley sets up the overpowered BBC. That's big black centre for the uninitiated, and Magnus just drops all the way back, setting up the board once more, takes his played, queen recaptures. Wesley offers the exchange here, but Magnus wants it on his terms, and now we see the obligers of that one. Pawn recaptures. Few of Magnus's fans start bleating. They know he loves to grind like a grandma deep into the endgame. This is out of this world, because the knight drops back, opens up the tension. 20 years ago, probably every grandmaster's just taking, making the draw, or maybe you play on a bit more, you go f3, you do what Magnus does here, mini bomb cloud, but you're just not winning this. Not against a 2700 plus opposition, right? How does he do this stuff? Watch this. First, He expands with the f-pawn here. You could have taken, basically, Magnus trying to open up the board a little bit for his bishops now. You have to generate some kind of winning chances. This knight drops back. Now we see takes, pawn recaptures, the bishop re-fianchettos, and it eyes the weakened pawn. Knight b5, a3, Magnus setting up that great wall of China with the pawns. I mean, it's not a Chinese wall. You know, they're just pawns. It doesn't really work what I said, but I'm trying out here. G6 is played, bishop d7, don't blunder your knight, spotted, and we get the explosive c4, hitting this pawn and setting up this bayonet pawn structure. Be careful, by the way, if you face this over the board and you capture the pointy end of the bayonet, it is sharp, it can cut you. Friend of mine had to actually get a plaster on after the game, stop the bleeding. That's a band-aid for anyone who doesn't speak proper English. That's a joke, don't murder me in the comments. Now we see king f6, and before Wesley can get too comfortable, Magnus explodes the board. King e7 hits the bishop, saves itself, pawn's going to drop, so Wesley liquidates here. Magnus doing it on his terms once more. Bishop's bouncing round, and after bishop e4, of course, once again, he wants to keep that bishop bare. It's where he's going to get so much of his winning chances. Now we see takes, and you could check and then recapture with the knight. Quite like that way of playing, but Wesley recaptures, also good, just different. Now bishop e6 and bishop e3 offers this exchange of prisoners, but it's this micro moment where Wesley just puts that foot wrong. I mean, it really is incredible what Magnus can do. What should you do here? Actually step in with the king is best, because now if takes, like we saw in the game, there's check and you're losing a bishop. So you can't immediately win the pawn. Whoops, let's run back. So white has to wait as well. Let's say bishop g2, one of the lines I was looking at here. King f5. Here's one sample line. You get a kind of waiting game. Okay, this is some crazy tactic I was seeing where you win a knight, but then you win it right back. Blah, blah, blah. You know, the engine finds these draws, of course. Many different ways to draw the game, but also ways to lose it. And this is one of them. How can this be bad? You take the pawn, you offer the exchange of one pair of bishops, but now the bishop steps here, and you're not losing the bishop pair. The pawn pushes to a6, apparently a5 better. Takes was played, no one likes a pin, and now king e3 steps in, knight f5 check, king f4, bishop d3, bishop b4, and bishop b5. Let's pause here. How can this be good for white basically winning? Same material, same minor pieces, other than you've got these and they've got a knight and bishop. Well, it's all connected with the fact that Magnus now gets his king incredibly active, and look at this. He whispers in just a moment, stack my bishop. We absolutely love to see it, because look at the pressure they exert together, like laser beams down the board here, kicking that king from pillar to post. Now another check. King has to give ground, and now Magnus prepares to step in his king. He first covers the base of his chain. Bishop d3, king g5. And this is really why white stands better. More active king, incredible bishop pair, and you can just sort of corral black into the corners here that you want them in and go after the pawns while protecting your own. But of course, it's just absolutely masterful to watch. The bishop covers the g-pawn now. We get check. This one steps back. Bishop d4 hits the knight. Saved. Now we see king f6, and it offers the capture of a pawn. Big blunder. Not only could you check and win a piece, but this one's even more beautiful. You can go bishop f7. And the black king cannot move. You've trapped it in this mating net, and this check is on the way. Check and mate, unavoidable. You know, here's the way to stave it off the longest. Really cool. So of course Wesley didn't touch the pawn. He plays king e8, apparently running this way, more precise, but okay, we'll stick with the game. This is nuts. The time's getting lower. Now we see knight d2, bishop saved with a check, king d8. You could step in and check again, but Magnus takes the step back. Knight e4. Looks like you've walked into an awkward fork, but check. Saves the day. Then you can come with the king to the center this time and hit the bishop rather than here. You know, you do want to keep making progress. The bishop drops back, and bishop c7 covers that one from afar, and we're going to see the problem here, because if you try and wait with knight d6 not played, then Magnus can just keep waiting. Eventually he wants to march the king in and win a pawn in one way or another, or come round and win this pawn. Maybe he marches this way. There's many different plans, so hard to hold it all together. In the game, we see Wesley try and advance that pawn, liquidate it, but Magnus hits him with the switcheroo, snipes at that one from afar, takes, pawn takes, the knight drops back to cover, but bishop e2, and you're getting trousered, kind of attacked on both sides of the board. And how do you deal with everything? You just can't. If you push the pawn, well, it's getting taken. So in the game, we see Wesley desperately try and remaneuver, hit this bishop, but it slides in here, dominating these knight jumps now. 2 pawns are attacked. How do you save both? You just can't. So we see this one tried, desperate for some play, maybe looking for check, you know, that sort of thing here. But Magnus just now gives up this bishop pair, chops, cashes in, king recaptures, and he takes on a6 here, going for that one first because it could technically advance. This one's frozen in time. Bishop g6 covers, but look at this. King marches over, pawn and bishop create this impenetrable barrier. Bishop f5 and bishop e2 goes for the second weakness. If you cover like this, well, the king's stepping in anyway, marching this way, and you're just getting distracted, pawns dropping. This is going to march through. So this is how the game proceeded here. Another pawn drops off the board, bishop a6, and after bishop f3, Wesley resigns the game here. Because if you step in, say, to win this pawn, well, the problem is that you can never actually stop this one and give up bishop for pawn, make the draw, because white will always be able to intercept. And it's a recurring theme on both sides of the board in many different lines. There you go, end of the game here. This is the final position. Incredible victory from Magnus. These are the standings. Good day for Gukesh too. Fascinating encounter to come between those two. So do hit subscribe if you never want to miss a video. And have a look at the video on screen in case you missed the incredible Game of the Year Kings Indian Richie Rapport take a bow. Thanks a lot for watching and see you soon. Cheers.